Sherrod Small, Jesse Joyce.
Yo.
Iliza outside the studio playing Caroline's this weekend. And, wow, Robert Klein. We're overbooked today, people.
It's perfect.
We'll make it work. Jesse, I heard in there that you're going to Korea.
Yeah.
South Korea.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think? North Korea? He's not Dennis Rodman.
Hey, man, some people get a little peek of North Korea.
I would love to.
I would rather go to North Korea than South Korea.
Yeah.
I'd be scared shitless, but I'd rather go there. Maybe with the Vice guys. I think the Vice guys could figure it out. They have in the past.
Hi.
Hey, what's up?
Do you know everybody, Iliza?
I don't.
Yeah.
Jesse Joyce.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
We know each other.
Okay.
Sort of?
Yeah, good. Yeah, I saw you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe that's it. Hi.
Hey, what's up?
Hi.
We judged the road
Is that your
battle
dog,
together
too?
We
in
did.
LA,
Oh.
in
Yeah,
LA
that's my dog.
a while ago.
Wait,
We
you got your
In
dog
LA?
in here?
Yeah.
I'm allergic to
At the
dogs.
Comedy Store?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It's not important.
Okay.
We did.
See, this proves it.
A cutie.
I'm allergic to dogs, and they say that dogs sniff that shit out. So
But that one's hypoallergenic.
Oh, then fuck me.
There you go.
Then it could stay. No, it could have stayed either
I'm
way.
allergic to dogs, too. And if there's a small dog around, I break out in a heart-on.
He loves his bitches.
Small dogs and children.
Iliza, you getting that famous where now you got to walk around with a small dog?
To be fair, I've had that dog since before I was
all right.
marginally famous.
All right,
Okay.
fair
An
enough.
L-list celebrity.
Another fair enough.
She's been
for
around for a
Iliza.
while.
It's a cute little dog. What's the name?
Her name's Blanche. And I always have trouble bringing her into Sirius, which I think is so funny, not to be a nerd, but Sirius is named after, like, the dog star.
Right, the dog
Right.
star.
I'm like, you guys have dogs all over your logos,
Yeah.
but no dogs in it, but I brought her in.
Everyone else brings dogs in. Yeah, we get dogs.
White
Nicole-
people get to take their dogs everywhere, don't you?
I don't know.
It's an emotional support animal.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well,
That's how
black
to
people
describe my
could, too,
penis.
if you didn't own so many vicious pit bulls.
That's right. I had a Yorkie for 15 years.
You did? Really? That
Oh,
seems out of
really?
Vicious
character.
Yorkie.
I got it for my girlfriend in college. She lasted 2 years.
All right.
And the dog lasted 15.
And you kept the dog? It's rare that the guy keeps the dog.
I tried to keep her with the dog, then she had a kid, and she gave the dog back.
But she had a kid.
She gave the dog back.
Well, yeah.
Wow.
Do you still? Is it gone now?
He passed away in 2010.
Sorry.
Yeah, Geraldo took him.
The two of them went down together?
Same year. It's a rough year for me.
And Mike DiStefano as well? All three of them?
That's right.
Hey, is
In a
it,
blaze of glory?
Goes in three.
is it a rescue dog?
She is a rescue dog, which I think is the only saving grace. Because if it was like a purebred, then I'm kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
But it's like a rescue, so you can't. Even if you look down on that, I'm taking it everywhere. It's like, oh well, she's the rescue.
Yes.
It's
and
okay
you
now.
can see it in her face.
Right.
At
Yeah.
every meal, at every look.
She's happy to be here.
She'll be
She's
standing
very
right there.
thankful.
She's grateful. She
Grateful.
used to be a dog prostitute. That's our backstory. And I rescued her from a life. And it's fitting. She actually has no front teeth now. Not that she needs them.
What happened to
As
the
a
front
dog
teeth?
prostitute.
It's easier for her. What happened to her teeth? We had
Yeah.
to get them pulled.
Why?
Because she wouldn't talk. No, because she, they just, sometimes, like, small dogs have
You got to
bad
take them out
mouths.
10 years, yeah.
She got a fucking smart mouth.
$5,000.
I had to pay $3,000 for my dog's teeth surgery.
And the worst part was, not to make this about dogs, she got the teeth removed. I took her home, and we go outside just so she can pee, and she runs across the street, and I saw a car coming, and what came out of my mouth was $5,000. Like, that's all I said. I just spent that, but
It's expensive having
I
a
would
dog.
let the
real.
dog have an achy mouth.
And when I took
that's
the money,
too much money,
I took the
man.
money back to the vet.
Yeah.
And the girl at the front desk, when I brought all cash, she was like, "You sell drugs?" I was like, "Bitch, save my dog."
it's a Yorkie. Do I look like I sell drugs?
If I sold drugs, I would have drowned this dog in a bathtub.
I would have filled the dog with cocaine and put it on a plane.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This
Both
dog would
things.
not be
I don't know
here.
if you've ever seen The Wire, but yeah.
If I sold us, no, whatever.
By the way, that was a seamless transition from Jesse, you're going to Korea to a
Dogs.
long dog discussion.
Yes.
So-
They eat
Because they
dogs
eat
in
them.
Korea.
Yeah.
That
You
is a
going to
known
Korea?
fact.
They eat dogs in
I'm gonna
America
have some.
too. The
You going to
Koreans.
South Korea?
Yes, good one. Yeah, good Korea.
What are you gonna do there?
Well, I'm doing whatever the base is. I'm doing the DMZ.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So you're going to be close to North Korea?
Yeah, like I'll be able to see it.
DMZ.
Apparently.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Called the DMV.
Did I say the DMV?
You did DMV.
Yeah.
The DMZ, yeah.
Boy, there's a lot of giant fat black ladies with hoop earrings in North Korea.
You love your
It's
black
odd.
jokes, don't you, Jesse?
So, what? I just got off the roast. You understand? That's
Oh,
how
that's
it goes.
good,
Like
yeah.
It just stays with you, man. It's like a fraternity.
I swear to God, for like a week, it's like a week of decompression. Like any girlfriend I've ever had, whatever, they're always just like, "You are a mean asshole." Right after the like, and I gotta like sort of work like.
So it's not just Ludacris saying this; it's everybody.
No, No, dude, it just, you get in that mode, in the zone, and then, like, honest to God, like, you know, me and the writers will go to, like, a Denny's at, like, 2 in the morning, and then you just, like, boy, our waitress's ass is so fat, and it's like, why am I picking on the waitress? You know what I mean? You just can't help yourself.
You can't stop.
Because you're just, like, kind of deconstructing people all the time. Yeah, so it takes, like, a week.
Male comics in general.
Yeah, but specifically after the roast, you're just, like, really picking out, like, people's sort of,
destroy.
like, racial inferiorities and whatnot, you know? So,
right.
Yeah.
Wow.
That a boy.
Like what?
What's
that a boy?
Have you been to South Korea?
No, it's my first time. I'm doing Okinawa and Honshu in Japan, and then I'm doing.
Oh, that's awesome.
I want to go to South Korea. I'm shooting a special there. I'm going to call it A Stone's Throw from Evil.
It's very clever, Jimmy.
Would you try? Would you try dog if they offered?
Oh yeah,
it?
sure I would. I have a dog.
Here's
Like,
the kicker: you wouldn't know that they offered it. You would
love
just
my
start
little
eating.
dog.
They don't tell you.
It's a different kind of dog. There's a meat dog, like they call it meat rabbit.
I've been to South Korea, and I didn't see that.
Right.
You didn't see them eating
I didn't
dogs?
see the meat dog thing.
They want to keep it on the down low.
I don't know. I didn't know. I was also shit-faced.
I tell a story. It's really quick. I used to live in Northport, and I loved this Chinese restaurant. And I went there once, and I'm like, there was no doubt in my mind I was not eating chicken. But I don't know what the fuck it was. But I was sick to my stomach immediately. And it was because it was something that I've never ate before.
Right.
That was pussy.
that they were saying was chicken. So what would be the substitute there? There was no way it was fucking chicken.
Pigeon?
I don't know. And then
Seagull?
It was like gamey. It was like holy fuck, this is a foreign substance. And you know, coincidentally, the place closed down about a year later.
Oh.
So they probably were not doing as well, and then decided to cut some corners.
I went to.
But it was the only time I ate something where I'm like, fuck, this is not.
I don't know the animal.
This is I don't know the animal is a better way to put it.
We went to Cuba, and they had this like buffet thing, and at the end, and I was eating something that I thought was pulled pork. I was like, "This is delicious," and I was like 10 pounds heavier because it was
that
college,
rodent,
just
that
shit-faced.
rodent thing.
Oh, not a nutria. What are you talking about?
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, no, it was horse.
Nice.
Which just seems inhuman. Like, I guess it makes sense to eat it, but like we have such an emotional attachment. Not me, because I hate them, but in general, I ate a horse.
Yeah.
It was,
good.
It was really popular, like early 1900s in America. Everybody ate horse.
There were horses everywhere.
They still make the best pornography.
Was it good? You liked
so
it though,
good.
right?
It was so good, huh?
I felt so bad. I won't do it again. But I didn't know.
What dog do they eat? Is it a certain breed? You think?
I think it's like a mutt. I think that's the deal.
They go mutt.
Yeah.
I would think a pure breed would taste better.
I feel like I may have told this story a long time ago, but on here. But when I went to Shanghai, we had this guide. He was like a dude. He's like an American guy, but he lives there, and he's like Chinese, so he knows what's up. And he like does it for like famous people sometimes when they come over. And so there was some famous tennis player, and I can't remember who it was, but he brought some like high maintenance twatty model with him. And since that guy was doing like playing tennis all day and like having press conferences, like this guy Dan was stuck with her most of the time, and she was just like a huge pain in the ass, like one of those people like doesn't appreciate other countries at all.
Look down on them right there.
Yeah, it was just like, this place is gross and they smell weird and whatever. Like she just whatever. So he's stuck with her all the time. So like after like a week, one day she comes down, he meets her in the lobby of the hotel, and she's like, you know what, Dan, I don't need you anymore. Like I'm fine. I know what I'm doing. And he's like, that's not really a good idea. And she's like, no, Dan, I'm a model. I've been to Paris. I understand what foreign countries are like.
Please tell me she died.
Well, it's so finally after like 10 minutes, it's like, all right, fuck you, go ahead, whatever. So she goes off and ends up in this like one of those like real deal like markets in like old Shanghai, like the ones where it's like an old lady like picking out eels in a bucket.
Tell me she was human trafficked.
No, but I wish. But so anyway, so this second half of the story is related by the Shanghai Police Department. So what happens is she goes to that market, and there's some dude selling puppies in a cage, and she's like, "Oh, puppies! Like, we're gonna get one for the hotel. We'll have a hotel puppy." So there's no English being communicated, but she's just pointing.
It is a rescue.
Yeah. So she's like,
"Yeah, this is a real rescue."
Yeah, she's like, "I'd like that puppy," and he's like, "Which puppy do you mean?" And she's like, "That one, the cutest one." And he's like, "Oh, this cutest one." Yeah, and he pulls it. He's like, "Okay." He pulls it out and snaps its neck and hands it to her. And she had like a nervous breakdown in the street, and they'd like throw a riot blanket on her.
She's a model. She can handle it.
Yeah.
I've never heard like a less qualifying statement like, "I'm a model. I can handle it." Like, nope.
Well, she's been to Paris. That's the point. So she gets foreign places.
I love Chanel.
It was nice they broke the neck, though. At least be quiet on the way home. Lemons to lemonade. That's what we do, right?
Just throw it in a pillowcase and just stun it, just smack it off a table. Right.
I want to take this call. It goes back to the Chinese restaurant. Chris, go ahead.
Hey, I'm a firefighter in Albany, New York. Recently, we had a fire a few years ago. It's at a Chinese food restaurant. We go there quite often. Back in the garages, I'm not bullshitting, no bullshit. Thousands of fucking cats in the back garages.
The thousands of cats in the garage behind the Chinese restaurant.
Alive, dead, fucking everything. It was the most disgusting thing I've ever fucking seen.
So they were definitely serving cat.
Oh my God!
I wonder if I ate cat that day.
I'm sure.
There was something, man. My stomach was like, what the fuck is this?
Dude, I can guarantee you go to Chinese food restaurants, you're eating cat, brother. You're eating cat.
I mean, I'm sure everybody sells
you know
a
what?
little cat here and there. Not just
I'm
the
always
Chinese.
suspicious. I'm probably racist when it comes to that shit because I only pick the high-end Chinese restaurants because it's always in the back of my mind. If they're not doing that
Right.
well,
If you're not doing well,
if
or
they're not
Chinese-
doing that well, they're gonna maybe do a little
But
something.
how is cat like cheaper than a chicken? You know, like what are they saving by selling you cat?
Well, you get a few cats and just let them multiply. You just keep.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Is that what it is?
It's like a cat farm.
Right.
Who knows?
Okay.
Cats are just everywhere.
Oh, where
They
are you?
definitely
Hold on.
multiplied. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Talk, Eliza.
I don't think it's
Nice
working.
to hear.
There it is.
from you guys,
Okay.
though. I gotta
And it's
go-
tax-free.
All right, Chris. Thanks. For,
It is.
there's a story we've done many times in the show. It's I think it was a Buffalo Chinese restaurant where the guy got caught dragging a bloody deer through the restaurant to the kitchen.
What?
Look it up online. We've done it too many times on our show, but yeah, that's how he got caught because people were like, "What the fuck?" They called 911. Like, there's a guy dragging a bloody deer through the
But
restaurant.
that's the thing people eat. People eat deer.
I think.
But you
it's-
don't bring it
Venison.
through the fucking restaurant.
they have a back door, right?
No,
Like,
I believe it's been many years, but I believe it was a deer that was on the side of the road.
Oh, that's the issue. That's the issue.
And they said, and this guy's like, "Wow, we got some free meat for the
What's
restaurant."
the statute of limitation between like? There's no difference between I shot a deer versus it got hit, so it's dead. So like, what's the time limit before it's roadkill and you can't bring it in?
I mean,
Once it
technically,
goes rancid, I guess.
yeah, technically, if you hit a deer, that's good eats for a while,
Right?
Yeah, in
So if you hit
Alaska,
it, what's
you can
the big
take
deal?
some states you can actually take it off the road and eat it.
For long
In
because
some
it's
states
cold
you can't.
because it's preserved for so long.
And deer is overrated. Living in Western New York, I've had deer.
You haven't had it right, Opie.
It stinks. They made their homemade beef deer jerky, whatever the fuck they want to call it. I hated all of it.
I hate when
and
local
they
people.
gobbled it up in Western New York like it was a delicacy, man.
I think when local people take like their local animal, when you're eating something out of necessity and they make it like it's a delicious thing, you're like,
Right.
no, I've got options. I've got
Right.
McDonald's. I've got options.
It looked delicious. It was in Chile. We were going to a Bills game. It was perfect. We were tailgating in a big hot pot of chili.
Was
and-
it too gamey?
Yeah, man, and very greasy. I remember.
Tastes like a
It's like
wild
oily.
animal.
It's
Yeah,
oily.
like
Oily or
elk-
something.
Oily.
I hated it.
Horse
But,
can be like that too. Sometimes it gets oily.
what, you've had horse?
I had horse before.
There's a restaurant in Astoria called the Thirsty Koala that sells kangaroo, which is like Australia's
People
deer.
like
Where'd
that,
you have
yeah.
horse?
They sell down south.
Oh, sorry, I'm a street guy. I'm thinking heroin. Sorry.
Do you ever go on like Omaha Steaks website or any of those like if I ordered someone like steaks for a holiday thing,
Yeah.
but you go down a little bit sometimes on some of those websites and it starts to get into like weird animals. You're like,
Yes.
do I send snake? Like, do I make it a special Christmas? Like, there's all these. There's always options.
I'd try snake.
Yeah.
For some reason, I would try that one.
If you fry it up, you
I
eat
don't know.
it.
I would try that.
I would try
Yeah.
alligator.
I had alligator nuggets before.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
If we're eating crawfish, those are disgusting. We eat those.
Yeah, crawfish is just as nasty.
Is he right outside?
And roachy.
We got
Yeah.
Robert. We got Robert.
disgusting.
It's
Klein.
water roaches. It's water bugs.
Yeah.
I just got to know we got Robert Klein early today. Yeah, we'll bring him right in.
Cool.
Yeah, Omaha Steaks though. That's great to send to people. That's
It's
easy.
if any
It's an
guy,
easy gift.
send them that.
Yeah.
Easy.
Doesn't matter what it is.
I
Who
might
doesn't
throw-
want steak?
I might throw snake in next time. I didn't even realize. I
Snake
never.
steak.
Mix it up.
Yeah.
Wow, Robert Klein just walks into our studio.
Big time.
Are you?
He's kissing Jimmy on the head.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Robert Klein, are you kidding me?
I haven't been up this early in 6 years.
We're on now.
Robert.
Since I was a farmer.
Since you were a farmer. Yeah, you stand up, but you comedians just don't let you guys
Is there
don't.
On television?
No, we always just shoot
cameras.
them for the website.
We have a little camera in case.
Radio?
Yeah.
Yeah. In case you say something crazy, we can get a little press for ourselves.
Yeah.
That's why it's there. If you want to know the
Hi, buddy.
truth, Robert.
Happy you're here.
Wow.
On the air?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
this is it.
My trainer, TJ Sequeri, told me to give you a big hug.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you trainers
Tell
listen
you
to the
look
show.
great.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jimmy looks wonderful.
He used to look like Sluggo from Nasty Comics.
Yes, he
I
did.
always thought he was Sluggo. And why I read that comic, I have no idea. It's the unfunniest thing in here ever lived.
Well, you got a lot of comics in this room, Mr. Klein. Yeah. Sherrod Small, all really funny. Jesse
nice
Joyce.
Nice to meet you.
Iliza Shlesinger playing Caroline's this weekend.
Jesse.
Jesse.
Yeah.
I read The Amorous Busboy of Decatur Avenue.
Did you?
I did when I was, like, I think in high school or middle school, but I read it. I'm just putting that out there. I read his book.
But was it good? She didn't say it was a good book.
It was good. Of course it was good.
There's always that question afterwards.
Yes.
I read your book.
It was so long ago, but I was given that book. I think my dad gave it to me. So you just read these things.
Yeah.
People give you funny people's books and you read them.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And you like it?
I did. Well, I was so long ago. I was literally, I think, 6th grade, but I did like it.
This is an advanced reader. It's full of sex.
Well, you grow up in Texas, people are like, she's funny, give her something else. There was no textbooks.
Right.
So they were like, here's some funny
Wait, there really
books.
is a lot of sex in that book, and you read it in 6th grade.
I read it.
Well, I am the amorous busboy.
What was it about?
A few episodes of my life in the Bronx, and then from the age of 9 to 25, I get left at the end of the book in the hallway at the Beverly Hills Hotel, not knowing if I'm going to have a career. But there's some good stories in it, like saving Rodney's life, Dangerfield.
Wow.
Wait, could you tell that story?
Of course.
No, once it's written, he can't.
No, he was
done.
Well, sometimes people go, read the book.
He was my Yale Drama School for comedy.
Okay.
I know our styles don't seem alike, but I was in a Broadway show at a musical, and I went down the improv with the second time I went with a 25-pound tape recorder. I saw Joan Rivers and her husband using a tape recorder, Edgar. Mm-hmm. And I went down there, and this guy came. I did very well. Alan Alda, the star of my show, came, and a few of the cast. I'll tell you, And he started. So what happened is I followed him around everywhere. I learned the techniques, So we had a gig in Cape Cod, in Buzzards Bay, a very famous sailing place. And we go up there, and I'm just trailing with him, and it's like 35 knot winds. It's like a hurricane. He goes, I'll tell you, man, let's take out a sailboat. Sailboat? What do you know about sailing? What's there to know? It's a fucking wind. So I notice no one else is sailing. The people are in shelters. FEMA's giving out donuts. And this guy wants to go sailing. So he gives the boat boy, his kid from Boston, he gives him $20. He says, come on, let's take out a... I'm sorry, Rodney, the boss may not like it. There's 30 knot winds out there, and, and Rodney was like an impetuous child. He had to get what he wanted when he wanted it, So he says, I got to give you a sailing lesson. All right, like an impatient spaniel. And he goes, this is the forecastle, and this is the mainsail, and this is, never mind that bullshit. Just give me the keys. He wanted the keys.
The keys to the sailboat.
So, the kid pushes us out in this catamaran. And, in 9 seconds, we're 1,000 yards from shore. There's a wake behind this catamaran. You could have water skied behind it. And he's in the front in ecstasy with, pulling it. He often, had this fidget with his tie when he wasn't wearing one. He was bare-chested. He goes, I'll tell you, this is too fucking much. I'll tell you, this is too... And like a dog with its head out the window on the highway, he was in ecstasy. And he suddenly, impetuously, he's a 2-3 foot chop. He goes, I'll tell you, man, I'm going to take a swim. Rodney, don't do... He goes overboard. Jeez. So I don't know how to come around to change the forecastle or the mainsail. I'm from the Bronxel. We're not sailing people, those sailing songs, yo-de, ho-de, shiver.
Not a seafaring people.
Yo, that's it. No ho-de, ho-de. I was terrified. I'm thinking, what am I going to tell the Post when he dies? And I'm, were you jealous of Mr. Dangerfield professionally? And American tragedy. 2 of us went out, one comes back. Literally, I was terrified because he disappeared in waves, and I came around and made a nice tight turn of 6 miles. And I was a lifeguard in a hotel years ago, and when a white person is close to drowning, there is the flesh is blue. A blue claw comes over the boat. And he came in, and even drowning, he sounded like Rodney Dangerfield drowning. But he was very close to giving up. He was 2 packs of Marlboros a day.
Right.
He was in horrible shape. And that is a true story.
What year was that?
Would have been early 70s. I met him in the fall of '66.
He dropped out, didn't he? Rodney started and was like performing for years, and then he kind of just gave up and went back to aluminum siding or something.
Well, he was born Jacob Cohen, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Jim just gave me a tissue for this. This is a radio. You have to explain. Anyway,
you don't have to explain that.
Explain that noise, yeah.
His father was named. He changed the name to Roy, Phil Roy. He was in vaudeville for a while. Then he deserted. Rodney had the most horrible childhood, and he was a comedian called Jack Roy, and he was starting to get pretty good. And he married this singer, and she said, "Oh, let's quit this horrible business." And he didn't really want to, but they both quit. And
that's what pussy will do to you.
Huh?
That's what pussy will do to you.
How old was he when he
your
quit?
life direction. That's right, Jesse.
I think when he came back as Rodney Dangerfield, he claimed to me, by the way, that he found it in the Manhattan Directory, the name.
Wow.
He was playing a club in Washington Heights or something. He couldn't keep out of it. He wrote jokes for Jackie Mason and... Thank you, Mr. Campos, and also for Joan Rivers.
Right.
He just dabbled, and then Rodney was really brilliant. He was a high school educated man, but he began by canvassing. His friend was in the aluminum siding business, Joe Ansis. Was
I knew Joe, yeah.
Joe was a very hilarious aluminum siding guy. And he was,
one of the best.
He was.
Yeah, but that was just funny how you said
Al Goldman wrote a New York article, The Real Lenny Bruce, because he was they were all friends with Lenny Bruce.
Okay.
And anyway, long story short, he became started knocking on doors as a canvasser, the lowest end of that business. And in 2 years, Rodney had owned his own business with 50 salesmen. And then there's a picture of them all being loaded on the Daily News into a police van because they violated some federal law, but the charges were dropped. So he came back kind of late.
He was in his 40s or something when he quit?
Was.
Yeah.
He was. And his wife, Joyce, was said, she was kind of mentally unbalanced and...
Women.
Went, boy, you got a misogynist. You're the cause of everything.
Pussy will do that to you. Women.
She's hearing theories on 9/11. It's really creepy.
Bad breakup.
Are you referring to punkies? That's what my mother called punky. Punky will do that. I had a pookie, and my sister had a punky.
All right.
And she had toddies, and mine was smaller. That's the kind of language I was brought up with. So this is where it all happens. Yes,
this is it.
And you're the one that didn't get arrested, right?
Yeah. I survived.
Something at St. Patrick's Cathedral?
Oh, that was warm. That was back in...
That was
way behind.
2002.
2002 was the big...
Well, they want you to procreate in that church, right? I don't know if that's hypocrisy.
That was a big deal for us back in 2002.
That guy's dead. He died of a heart attack. I forget what his name was, but like around 2004 or 5, I think.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was while we were off the air.
It was when we were off the air, definitely.
He died of a heart attack. Yeah, he was... I don't know what he was doing, but he's not alive.
I don't know the story.
We didn't know him, though. He was just a
They had
fan.
sex in St. Patrick's Cathedral or something?
We were on
Fans?
We were on top of our game when we decided to have couples have sex all over New York City. And Paul Mercurio brought a couple to St. Patrick's Cathedral. And there might have been some butt sex in the lobby.
It was the butt sex they had the issue with.
Vestibule, yeah.
But honestly, the guy even said, I don't know what I really saw, but get the fuck out of here. And then the press picked up on it. And, at the top of our careers, we were let go, and we've been trying to get back there ever since.
Back to that acmatic point.
Yeah, we were doing very well in 2002.
It wasn't a gain in some. With all the publicity, it was bad.
It helped us in the end. Yeah, even bad publicity helps.
It was a slow news week, though, so what happens when there's a slow news week is they just harp on it, and once they start harping on it and it becomes the main story, you got no shot, because the people panic behind the scenes.
And the problem is that the company never fired us. They want to really hurt us, so they put us on the beach, as they say, and we weren't allowed to do anything for 2.5 years.
But you got paid.
Yeah, that part was nice. Well,
I've heard it was nice.
Well,
I didn't get paid.
2 out of 3 got paid.
Yeah, him and Anthony got paid.
Awkward.
Yeah, I didn't get paid.
They spanked you, Jimmy.
Yes, they certainly did.
He had paperwork that was in his mailbox that was supposed to be signed.
Right.
And it was never signed.
I signed it, but the upper management hadn't signed it yet.
And the guy works here, so, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought this when Mel Karmazin was here.
You know all these guys.
Well,
Wow.
I knew him for he was program director at WNEW. When I started, my first album, Child of the 50s, well, that's not when I started, but my first album was in 73, Child of the 50s.
Yeah.
Nobody played comedy albums. So this progressive rock, WNEW New York, the one in Philadelphia, the one in Boston, they began to play it. And he was sort of a fan, Karmazin. I saw him on the street a couple of years ago. He's not here anymore, right?
No, he's not working.
But, I always thought Karmazin will come through. Sirius Radio has a technique for getting customers. That is mailing you 365 letters a year. That covers each day. $4 for 6 months, $7 for 8 months.
You can't keep track of their
no
bargains.
charge for 2 years.
Yeah.
With a charge.
You just add them all up and you just have free radio.
That a Buick. It is a Buick. Leave me alone already.
Yeah, they seem to like him. They like a good mailer.
You know, I hadn't talked
No
about
Karmazin.
commercials
There
in a
you
long
go.
time. I see one where this bear gets his ass inspected at the airport.
I didn't see this
Did you
one
see
yet.
that for
No.
Charmin?
No.
Oh,
You're clean.
Yes.
I did not see this one yet.
There's like an
Disgusting.
NSA worker or something. Well, yeah, there's a bear family going through the airport and they check their rears to make sure they wipe.
Look how carefully they check their real end.
Because I don't want to be misogynistic in
saying
front of
pussy. They check their rear end. To get selectively polite.
They check their bear asses.
I was eating at the time. I was eating at the time. I don't care about a bear's asshole, whether it's at the airport or not. Plus, I wouldn't even let a bear on a plane if you want to know the truth.
Would you eat bear asshole in a restaurant? We were talking about eating unconventional animals before.
Yeah.
This is a pretty blonde woman talking dirty like that.
See, now you're coming on to her when she said, but I'm an asshole.
I'm old.
Yeah.
Why are you surprised that a pretty girl could talk like that?
Thing here. What do you want to know about old age, boys?
I just repeated what you
if you
guys
make
said.
I thought it was a good question.
I'm one of the few
Legitimate.
comedians that has made it to old age.
Yeah. Comics either live forever or die very young.
Got
Yes.
a very good point.
Yeah.
Either Irwin Corey,
Right.
who is slightly demented, collecting nickels on 37th.
I'm opening for him next week.
Either him or, everyone else.
Patrice and Greg, who died in their early 40s. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you either
Brilliant guys, too.
There's very few like 55 or 60-year-old comedian deaths. Very old or very.
I tell you,
Yeah.
Robin, that just surprised me because
Robin,
we had the same accountant. I mean, not the same accountant. I know him for 45 years. We had the same manager, not 45, 40. He's a great actor, as my accountant reminded me. Oh, yeah, fine. He went out for dinner the night before. I had a long talk at the SNL thing with Billy Crystal. He was very depressed. Only a few people knew it.
Yeah.
I think since he had his heart operation. Joan Rivers, that's the way to go. Propofol, you never know what hits you. Your career is going great at 81. Then you never know what happens.
You have no idea. You just go. You get knocked out. You say your last statement. There's nothing deep.
I had mixed feelings, though. I know her, too, for a long time. Like,
was
really
great.
the earliest. And she's a trooper. She was around forever. And we did a movie together, horrible movie, called Goose, in which she played my wife. I actually stopped her in a movie.
How was it?
How was that?
I screwed Joan Rivers. I can actually say that. And it was an incredible scene. For the orgasm, we brought in a stuntman from California, Bobby Bass. I worked with him on Hooper. Jewish stuntman, by the way. And he said it was more dangerous than crashing cars. The upshot is that during the stopping, she sold me 4 bracelets. The woman couldn't multitask. My feelings were, though, about, doing the dialogue between Kirk Douglas and Dick Clark, stroke talk. I think that's extremely cruel. And she used to be so cruel to Elizabeth Taylor, And yet, when we did this movie, and I was worried because, it was like a $2-3 million movie. It wasn't private Winnebagos and, all that. She was so much fun. She got into the spirit. Jennifer Tilly,
Oh,
It
yeah.
was very hot.
Jeez,
Yes.
ridiculously
Played my
hot.
daughter.
Very
Played
Really?
my daughter.
Oh.
And there's a scene where
do
she
you
has
want?
to jump on top of me because I'm her daddy, and she thinks I had a heart attack. And she starts to pound my chest, Daddy, 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 and her whole body moving.
More, please.
Daddy, Daddy.
us more.
And it felt
Yeah.
so good. And some moron, I think the director goes, cut. I go, don't cut now. Give me a few more daddies. 10, maybe 12 will do. 5, give me a dad, I'll give you an I'm at the Tarrytown Music Hall tomorrow night.
Oh, good.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
and Governors at tomorrow, Tarrytown Music Hall up by Poughkeepsie, and then April 18th, Governors in Levittown. Just Robert's one of my favorite comics of all time.
he's been saying that for years.
You know, after you
Mr.
go to
Clark.
Governors in the
Yeah.
dressing room there, you have to shower. But it is a nice atmosphere.
Yeah, not a good dressing room though.
Yeah, every comedian has passed through there. I do it once a year, and it's a lot of fun. But the Tarrytown Musical is ancient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have a house about 4 minutes away. I only take gigs that are within 4 to 5 minutes. I haven't been employed in quite a while.
Did you ever take time off from stand up, or you did it consistently through the whole time? You never took a break, and you kind of always.
Oh yes, I 7 Broadway shows. 2 of them closed out of town, but movies I had to take time off, as much as 9 weeks, 10 weeks. But as they say, Jim, well, Norton, it's like riding a bike, right? I mean, I could be away from it for a while. And my schedule isn't like it used to be. I do less than I used to. I just did 4 shows in Florida, and it was a tremendous improvement over last time. Only 3 EMS emergencies in the audience. I flaunt my age all the time. You see me on the Carson Show, which I did about 80 times, I think they said, as a guest with Johnny, and maybe 15 times the host. Johnny, I'm 32. Well, Johnny, I'm 36 years old. Johnny, I'm 42. So when I say I'm 73, audiences start to applaud. It's that corny thing. Total silence in Florida. I'm 73.
This whippersnapper.
That's nothing.
That don't cut shit in this room. Actually, I treat them, when I play for old audiences, I treat them like hipsters in old bodies, because they are. They're really, not hipsters.
Well, they were the original hipsters.
But they were, they were young, and yet your head doesn't change entirely. Right. I'm doing this show now with Deborah Messing. I'm playing a father. I play fathers now. I played Sandra Bullock's
You were
father.
in 2 weeks' notice. I love that movie.
2 weeks' notice of Sandra Bullock. I played a father. I played Kira Sedgwick's father. I play fathers. So I have to kiss
His scene with
Messing
cheesecake, I
gently.
remember.
I have to kiss her on the forehead.
Quit looking at me when it comes to sexual things. You looked at me for the kissing
Well, who else
and
am
the
I
daddy
gonna-
scene. Look at the black guy.
Right here.
Take a look
Right
at all
here.
these
At
men
me.
here. And there's a Lock in. So where was I anyway?
Talking about kissing me.
So I have to kiss her on the. We're making a rapprochement. We've been at odds, my daughter and I. And I'm going towards her forehead, and I see these blue eyes and these voluptuous lips. I swear to you, I had to control my schmeckle, number one. And as I got to go, forehead, she's your daughter, forehead. I had to keep aiming my lips. It is hard because everything changes. They say old age is in your head. It's true. It's in your head. Like,
it's
why am I
Alzheimer's.
in the kitchen? It's in your schmeckle. It's in your everything.
Right.
Looking at me.
But you seem to enjoy it though. Like embracing it is
Right
great.
at you.
Embracing it is good though. You can't, like, a lot of actors feel like they have to hide from it, and I guess because they're judged differently than comics are.
Yeah.
Notice,
true.
no operations, no hair dye. I mean, at the SNL thing, I would say Paul McCartney had an excellent professional dye job in his hair.
Yeah.
But his face is a tiny little 72-year-old prune. So
Right.
it looks odd.
It looks like an apricot, like a dried
These
apricot.
guys,
It's a
they're
mix.
104 and they
It's a
have
weird-
jet black hair.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
I sat behind Guy Lombardo once. Do you know who he was?
Guy Lombardo,
Sure.
yeah.
He was an old
Wrestler.
orchestra. He played
yeah.
Waldorf every New Year's Eve.
He sounds like a wrestler.
That's Guy.
Vibrato.
Yeah.
The guys had great licks, but they were working for Guy Lombardo. They couldn't break out, and I had to play that. He's from Buffalo. I sat behind him on a flight to Buffalo. Jet black, all 3 hairs. So the shoe polish or whatever he used was black scalp.
Mascara.
You can't get away with that.
With the little brush.
Now, here we are. I'm fighting to keep my hair, and you cut yours off.
I cut it off.
Well, I don't get it.
I
Don't
kept
need
mine.
it.
He's got a very lush, full
God.
neck beard, though. That's going nicely for him.
Yes, thank you.
I always feel like in Hollywood you have an option of either aging and just gracefully or aging weirdly. Like you can get plastic surgery and just look weird so no one knows what you are.
Right.
Or just age. And I
Right.
feel like a lot of women go for like, I'll just look like a weird sea alien.
Right.
Versus do anything else. That way at least you don't know.
Those dumb duck lips.
It's
and-
almost like a
Everything.
different ethnicity.
and their
these
face
girls, these
doesn't
women's
move.
faces look the same.
It's terrifying.
Because they use the same doctor.
No,
Yeah,
the nose,
yeah.
There's a
It's the
nose.
same look.
There's a Dr. Abramoff nose from Central Park South. It's a lot of
well-known
people
nose.
have that. It's a number 14.
It's a special.
It's a Roman Hungarian. You can get the 3 nostril option, which is. No, I was in my first Broadway show, and there was a guy, I won't name him, he was a triple threat, one of these gypsies, dancer, singer, actor. And he had the most perfect nose, which he was paying off. And he took a self-improvement loan from Chase. Building a patio, yes, on my face. And this guy was a chattel slave. His nose was not paid for. And, they would call up, don't blow too hard. Lucy Arnaz had the bunion surgery. I'm thinking of that. The thing is, you have to be on crutches 3 months. And the bunions grow back in 4 months. So it's a delay. Then you have the operation again, 3 months, 4 months, 3 months, 4 months, get a good parking spot and a lot of good drugs. But you still have bunions.
Yeah.
So, it's a toss-up.
So you were never tempted to do it. You were just happy to.
No, I'm tempted to do nothing. I lost 35 pounds. I know you lost a lot of weight, Norton.
Thank you.
And,
Sick.
welcome. And
He's
I did too. I was drinking too much wine, and I also watch calories. I'm exercising faithfully. My present was a turkey neck. And around Thanksgiving, I was more nervous than you could possibly imagine. Because what happened is used to be fat that filled in these crinkles.
Yeah.
Right.
And now there's...
It don't look bad.
So there's a trade-off.
Yeah, it is one of those things where it's kind of like a sign that you've lost some weight when your neck gets a little bit loose. You're like,
Everything's a little bit loose. I mean, except Joan Rivers and I don't know. You know what? But that was like.
Did she have surgery?
I'm not sure, but I think so. Because I once patted her on the back, and her face rolled up like a window shade. So I suspected that maybe. I wasn't sure, but like at the end of the reel, I had to pull it down. The first person that I ever saw that was Zsa Zsa Gabor, who is still alive and still as useless as she was. No, she was, forget it. She got arrested in Beverly Hills years ago. She was
Slapped the
driving
cop, right?
in a Rolls, with a half a bottle of whiskey, and they stopped her, and she said, "Fuck you, I tell the Reagans on you." In a Hungarian accent, she smacked this cop. If she had been in the Bronx on the why of the fuck you, she would have had 6 bullets in her. She reached for her wallet, 9.
You ain't gonna tell me.
Right. So she's no one has paid attention to her for years, and every day they're at the Beverly Hills, that beautiful building in Beverly Hills, the courthouse. And she's going, and she loves the attention. And finally, her lawyer tells her, Zsa Zsa, you could go to jail for this. And she asked for community service. She actually suggested she wants to teach disadvantaged young girls how to put on makeup. This is her idea of community service.
All she knows.
And, she's afraid of going to prison because she's afraid of getting sexually assaulted. I mean, it was really sad. I mean, you take a look at this woman. I would say her sexual assault days were over. It would take the most desperate prison lesbian. Mimi, cell 14. We're having a party. Kool-Aid and lemonade. She is the Hilton tradition, and the what's their names of Kardashians, whatever they
Kardashians.
Kardashians a tradition of people who make the news all the time who are essentially useless.
Yeah.
Right.
Possibly as paperweights, but they're big. And they get in your way when you're reaching for the phone. Excuse me. But they won't blow away if you use them.
They're not contributing much, especially artistically.
Yes. And when the
Her daughter
revolution-
died recently. Her daughter, Francesca Hilton, would hang out at the Comedy Store. She's middle-aged, a little bit over middle-aged.
Was she good looking?
She was gorgeous.
She was, right?
Yeah, she hangs out at the Comedy Store. That does wonders for your skin.
That's what killed her.
Her, Zsa Zsa Gabor's daughter, Francesca Hilton.
Yeah.
Oh, she married Nicky Hilton years ago.
And
My
she was
goodness.
just as, I hate to say, just as useless. Nice enough, but just like would have been homeless if not for the trust.
Right.
For the family. I'm not positive.
Oh, okay.
But this was so sad. The only clip you could find online is like this raggedy TMZ camera where like following her like 5 years ago when her mom was admitted to a hospital, and it was just her wandering Beverly Hills looking for her mom. Like zero claim to fame. Such a waste when you have all the money in the world and that family name. And the best you could do is a Comedy Store.
Yeah,
What?
she has no
She
legs. I
is,
think
yeah.
her legs were.
They keep chopping body parts off.
Yeah. I know there was one leg
And no one
taken.
could see her.
No, but I have reason for having contempt. Years ago on the Mike Douglas show, you know who Mike Douglas?
I love Mike
Yes.
Douglas. Yes.
Well, I didn't love him, but
some
I discovered Michael Keaton. I had a pilot in '76 at Paramount called Klein Time, very modest. It's like a Monty Python.
Very
Peter
modest.
Boyle, Madeline Kahn, my guest stars. They were both my best
Love
friends.
Madeline
Both
Kahn.
did.
Wow.
They were my best friends in children. Anyway, we looked for a little cast of 4. We saw this kid doing stand-up in Santa Monica. His name was Michael Douglas. And it was Michael Keaton. He had to change his name because there were enough Michael. I was on the Mike Douglas show many times, and one time Zsa Zsa was on. And this young community organizer, black guy from Philadelphia.
I like how you pointed to me when you did that.
You know him.
Black guy from Philadelphia.
Pointing at
And he's a great kid. 25-year-old guy. He's building stuff, community organizing, and they need another 100,000. They're going to finish this. And it was all legit, And the audience is little ladies from Philadelphia with shopping bags before he moved to California. So this is what Zsa Zsa does. When the guy is saying, he said, we need 100,000 more, and we'll be over the hump, Mike. And the kid's got a great personality. This guy. She goes, well, I have a ring worth, and she calls the camera over. I have a ring worth 100,000. I'm not going to give it to you. And she calls the camera in for a close-up.
Oh my God!
I also know that when she played dinner theaters in the Midwest and theaters, she had anybody, all disabled people, wheelchairs, everything, out of her sight. She wanted them out of her view. So she's
And she's a pig. And now she's legless. That's a
legless. I guess I
Wait, she lost her
horrific.
legs? Did we make that up?
Why
She
not?
lost-
No, they keep lopping off the body part.
Yeah.
It must have been.
Yeah.
I think it was Vietnam. She got took some artillery.
Were you
very
on?
just.
Were you on the Mike Douglas show? It was in '74. I don't know. I know Toady Fields was on this one. Were you
Speaking of lost legs, she lost a leg at the end of her life from
on? Diabetes. Were you on when Kiss made their first appearance? Were you on that episode? Well, I saw you on an old. It might not have been that one. An old Mike Douglas episode. I don't know.
But my record company and my friend Neil Bogart created Kiss. I mean,
you knew Neil Bogart?
Very well. My first 2 albums were Neil Bogart, and Kiss was not happening. And they had Kiss contests in Florida, and you kiss me and I'll kiss you, until they forced it. And what's his name? Who leads the
Gene Simmons.
Gene Simmons.
And I loved him in Spartacus. He was great. They disguised him as a beautiful English woman. I'll tell you what devotion is. I had a radio show in 78, 79 for DIR. I had combinations on. We're in front of an audience. I had Rodney Dangerfield and The Who on the same show.
Wow.
He never heard of them. And he goes, the who? I must be the what? And we had Ringo, and Kiss came on in costume for a radio show. I'd say that's devotion.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, and they just, commercial. I don't know. You know what? I was on with the Rolling Stones on the Ed Sullivan Show, and I didn't remember because I was so nervous. I did 6 Ed Sullivan, the hardest show in the world. No sweetening, no attention.
Really?
And I didn't even remember that.
What year was that?
They went on, I don't know, in the late 70s.
Okay.
Mid to late 70s.
70s or 60s? Because I saw.
60, it wouldn't have been 60s,
Okay.
I don't think. Let's see, I got him signed with Rollins. It could have been 69, 70, 71. You know what? I don't even know. I have to look it up.
They were performing, and then you had to follow them?
Well, they were on the same bill.
Yeah.
But I paid no attention. I was too nervous myself. I didn't care
But
about
he's asking, like, if they went on and you went
And
right
then you
after.
had to-
Oh, I don't think so.
Oh,
I think I went on after Poopy Papi Campo. One of those things. All right. We used to have these. You know what? It was the most honest vaudeville because there were no sweetening. There was no nothing. And you know, backstage you'd have a ballerina performing at the bar, exercising, a dog act nipping at you, you know, Senor Wences warming up. It was a real combo, and that's the same theater where Letterman is. You know, this big cavernous theater.
And you said no sweetening, so if something didn't work, they didn't fix it in post. They just let it not work.
They did not
Just let
fix
you
it.
die.
And when I look at my appearances now, I'm amazed at the number of laughs. Rodney used to say, when they had 2 or 3 comics on one show, he says, I'll tell you, these comics, you know, they hope the other one does fair. You know? I mean, it was really, really tough. But then they had some like not Simon and Schuster, Wayne and Schuster. That's Rosie Schuster's father. That was what's his name? Lorne Michaels' first wife. I saw her at the party there. And they had Claire and McMahon. They were good writers, but they were really lame acts. You know, they had animals. They load in horses and occasional elephant. But you know, that was show business, and that was the tops. Now you have all these choices, and we couldn't say anything. You know, if I could have a recording of the discussions I had with Freddie the Cordoba, who produced the Tonight Show for years, you can't say that, and you can't say.
What was something that that was mild that you thought that they should let you get away with?
Well, I called what was his name, the vice president, Spiro Agnew. He pled nolo contendere, you know, no contest. I called him a crook in this routine, and he goes, "You can't say that.
Wow.
I'll sue you." Oh yeah,
wow.
He's gonna sue me, my man.
Yeah.
Turns out it was his friend. Or his buddy, you know, or you know, risque, anything with words. They looked at every word, you know, and now it's look. I have not. Profanity is part of the language. And a great novelist would use it. It's part of the language. I guess what I object to is that it's become colloquial in everyone's act, it seems, like every other word. And it still shocks. It's still good for a laugh, you know?
Right.
But I started in the most primitive times. I mean, where everything was, you understand, of course, that in movies and television, you couldn't, even a married couple in bed together.
Right.
The word pregnant was removed from I Love Lucy script. Pregnant.
Right.
We're still a little prudish. I read the other day where some school superintendent in Maryland eliminated the word scrotum from the hygiene text.
Well, it's gross. It's gross looking.
Well,
and it's gross
excuse me, but
You still gotta clean it.
What, they replace it with nutsack?
But that's right. What do you want?
Ball bag.
Balls?
Yeah.
Ball sack?
Yeah.
Right.
And he was a hell of an author, too. Honoré de Ball sack. I
Baby
read
bag?
everything he read. We're still half prude and half the other way.
We're slowly going back to that, though, Mr. Klein. We're starting to ban
Please
words.
call me Robert.
Robert Klein.
Can I call you Opie?
Yeah,
I loved you on that show with Andy Williams.
Good old
Andy Griffin.
Ron
Andy
Howard.
Williams.
I think we have
If you're-
puritanical roots in our country, even with alcohol. Like you can't buy it on Sundays.
Right.
In some
Sometimes.
places. It's ridiculous.
It goes back and forth. I mean, I think that people forget the narrow window of just the, like, whatever their lifetime is, and they see how it shifted, and they're like, it's so much less concerned. But, you know, I was just in Deadwood, South Dakota a couple weeks ago, and I went to this old brothel, and they had the menu of the brothel from 1877, and it's like ass fucking $7. You know what I mean? Like it was
Amazing.
Yeah. And it's like
That's gone up.
what an amazing deal that used to be, right? But and it was the most graphic.
They weren't
But
shy.
it's South Dakota. Are you sure it was a human ass, just not a donkey?
So they're in the same language, huh?
Yeah, I
Wow.
mean, like worse. Like it was just like, you know, like I want, you know, like do not try to let the girl suck your prick unless you fuck her face and ass first. Like it was like really super graphic.
Really sage advice.
Yeah.
The words to live by.
And that was just a fortune cookie that I got. Anyway, it's So and then that was 100. You know what I mean? That's 1876.
Yeah.
Sure.
So it just goes back and forth. You know what I mean?
Think that underbelly, I say of society, but like this. I just think it's always been around.
Yeah, and like Shakespeare, like at the time, saying "zounds" was like the fucking worst word you could possibly use,
right?
Because it was like a version of like Christ's wounds.
Though there's always been a kind of underbelly.
Even going back to like porn in the 20s or something, there's S&M. Like it's always been there. It's just we're shedding more and more light on it now, and especially with the internet,
we're not hiding
it's
it as
ever
much.
present. Yeah, but we're still shocked by it because if you go to like Europe, they've got naked women in their commercials, and here it's like blur it out, make sure she's in the right kind of top because Oklahoma doesn't like it.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen The Sopranos on A&E? It's ridiculous. A guy puts up his middle finger, they blur it out.
Yeah,
he's an amputee, and also the F word becomes forget.
Yes.
Forget you, forget your mother, you mother forgetter.
I mean, they shouldn't air it. Then.
Who are you fooling?
I know that show did incredible
trucker.
numbers when it was on HBO. So
that
we're
was
not bothered by the language.
It's insulting.
When I was growing up,
they insult us as an audience to do that.
Yeah,
Yes.
when I was growing up, I was watching Sex and the City like the second time around, and I would catch it on TBS.
Yes,
'Cause we didn't have HBO, and I didn't know all the graphic stuff that had been edited out until somebody gave me like the pack of DVDs for a present. I watched. I was like, there's so much fucking and nudity and like all this like salacious stuff, and I had no idea.
My girlfriend, whenever I watch Sex and the City with her on TBS, and she'll be like this, right there, they cut out the dick. They put a dick in the face.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it was ass fucking right there. They took it out.
Oh, really?
So much
I'm
of
like,
it.
what?
Wow.
Tits everywhere.
It's like 15 minutes shorter episode.
Totally. And
crazy.
so much more boring.
Yeah, they used to show in a couple, when there was any kind of stupping in a movie, the camera would go, there'd be thunder and lightning.
A train going into a hole. Yes.
That was a famous one.
Or like a geyser coming up. And then you realize, oh, it's coming. Ugh.
Well, I had that recurring dream for years of hot dogs chasing donuts through the Lincoln Tunnel. And I asked Dr. Joyce Brothers. She said I was hungry. Speaking of have a snack before bed.
You knew Lenny Bruce, right?
I did not know Lenny
You did
Bruce.
not?
Sadly. I never saw him perform in person, but he and Jonathan Winters were my two biggest inspirations for stand-up. I knew Jonathan blessedly in the last 12 years or so of his life. I spoke at his memorial last year. And his daughter sent me one of his airplanes. I have airplanes in my bedroom and my kitchen, too, and he has them hanging in all of his bedroom. And Lenny was... he had basically one or two champions, one of whom was Marty Garbus, First Amendment attorney, who I saw at that... the opera, the controversial opera, Leon Klinghoffer is the death of Leon Klinghoffer. I had to go through all these Jewish demonstrators. You, Robert Klein, going to a Nazi opera? Vote, what are you doing? Lady, did you see the opera? Of course not. I wouldn't see it. So how come you know what it's written by a Jew, by the way, the lyric. Anyway, it's a shitty opera. That's the whole thing. Peter Gelb, who runs the Met, I'm a friend of his family for years. I know him. He thinks it was a work of art. I think it was a work of nothing. But, they got so excited. And there's Marty Garbus and Gay Talese. You think anyone's going to tell me what to see in New York City? The beautiful thing. Lenny had no champions. They went up. I heard a version of in the Happy Medium Chicago. He mentioned a joke about the Pope. Two detectives right in front of the audience handcuffed him, took him away. By the time George Carlin got busted in Milwaukee, the thing had blown over.
Right.
And if there's George's obituary, there was a picture in the Times of his arrest. He was not happy. He was quite fearful looking. Right. And as I would have been. You don't know what you're in for, but by that time it had blown over. So, I don't know. I feel the same way about, you got the liberty to say whatever you want, which is good. I'm not in favor of any censorship at all. But, sometimes his crucifixion, and that's what it was, his sacrifice was sometimes, I think, a little in vain when people don't even think about it. And also, I got to say, I know white people complain when these schmucks were singing that song, that fraternity song.
Right.
Oklahoma.
Yeah. And I heard this guy say, well, no one should say the N-word, and I
That
kind
nonsense.
of agree. I mean, some of the rappers, were they on the front line in Selma and Pettus Bridge?
Ludacris was.
I was in college. I was in college. My lifetime. I went down to Florida. I saw colored-only, white-only fountains in my lifetime. This country owes more to Martin Luther King because he got it accomplished non-violently. You know what I mean? And he got the shit beat out of him too. He really sacrificed his private life. Forget it. He was a satyr. He loved sex. I am glad whatever made him happy because what he got accomplished. Yeah. And I think when you hear that, when they use that word constantly, and like proprietary about it, nobody knows their history anymore. You know what I mean? Nobody knows what went on 20 and 30, 40 years earlier. And that's the life. The Holocaust will be forgotten soon. The genocide in Cambodia will be forgotten soon. Civil rights things forgotten soon. I mean,
everything.
You know what? I think it just hurts less over time. I mean, the Holocaust was recent compared to even slavery. And I think to say forgotten soon, that's relative, in 100 years from now, it won't be as severe because no one will be alive that remembers any part of it. The thing that scares me about the Oklahoma thing is what they were chanting in unison. It wasn't one guy saying the N-word. It was a chant. That's the kind of hatred that's insidious and taught by your family, by friends.
Well, because
that's not
Oklahoma
random.
has like a really intense history of like the Tulsa race riots and all that shit. And I don't know if you know this. That speaking of how words kind of lose their power. Do you know the term grandfathered? Do you know how racist that term is? It's in cell phone contracts. Like Verizon will just grandfather you into
but that
something.
means your grandfather had to be white for you to own property or something.
No, to vote. It was an Oklahoma law in order to keep black people from voting. It said that you could either vote if you were literate or if your grandfather voted.
Right.
And so it was just a way to keep black people from voting.
That's being grandfathered
And then now, Verizon, everybody's just like, hey, congratulations, you're grandfathered in. You know what I mean? It's just become this
I never knew that.
Yeah.
But it's less offensive to me than the idea that if you take a look at voter suppression now, I have a bumper sticker, let people vote. You take a look, it's the Confederacy all over again, and add in a few Midwestern states.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get Americans to vote as it is.
Right.
What's the excuse for chomping on the vote? Go ahead.
Ignorance. But I also think MTV had this whole thing, rock the vote, right? Trying to get young people to vote. Here's my thing. Just because you have the right doesn't mean you should exercise it unless you're informed. Because what people do is they're like, oh, you're new to this country, you're a minority, you're not informed, you're whatever. Just get to the poll and vote for someone that looks like you. And it's like, or please do the research.
Yeah, be educated first before you do anything.
Don't just vote because you can. That's like saying rape because you can.
That's like
no, that was MTV.
That's
rock
what
the vote.
I was thinking.
Get out there and just vote.
That's what I was thinking.
Just vote.
Don't just
get
vote.
informed, of course.
But you say, of course, not everybody. Everybody's like, oh, it's my right. I'll just get out there and check off.
Nobody comes out to vote. My son is like that. He's 31, Allie. He's just cynical about. I mean, he's a good guy, but he looks at these clowns and he says, "There's no point to it." And
then you're part of the problem if you do that.
That's right.
That's part of the problem.
However, I think your state, like in California, our local elections, I think we had 9% voter turnout. It was like the lowest recorded election in state history. But when you live in we live in Los Angeles, it's a garbage city, and it's like, oh, do I want to vote for this shitty person or this shitty person?
The problem is the public doesn't believe in these candidates anymore, Robert Klein. I kind of agree with your son.
But they
look like fucking clowns.
But then
guys.
the public, then you gotta run. That's
True.
how it fixes itself.
I don't know
Guys,
how it fixes
it's like
itself.
I always say, we have to make a difference. I say that all the time. What was your?
It's true though. With this kind of appeal that Netanyahu had at the end, where all the Arabs are coming out to vote, is ugly stretch. But what no one recognizes is, yes, it is ugly, but it's the only democracy there that free people went out and voted.
Yeah.
And they voted for an asshole, okay, but that's their business.
I agree.
But that's the other thing, too. People don't know why they have these territories. As soon as Israel was created, it was attacked by every Arab country. And they had nothing. They had pistols and, nothing. And finally, they conquered some of this territory, and the move was to give it back over the years, and now it's calcified, and it's harder than ever. Again, that's knowing history. They didn't just walk in and conquer.
It was given to them.
Who was your favorite politician and why?
What?
Who was your favorite politician and why?
Spiro Agnew?
Roosevelt, probably. I just finished a wonderful book by Jonathan Alter, who you see sometimes on MSNBC. He's a brilliant guy, about the first 100 days when he came into office. The biggest depression, 25% unemployment, Apple selling, collapse of everything. This guy saved capitalism. And for years, it was a social contract in America that the government will no longer sit back and let you on your own. Like when Hoover was the last president like that. Roosevelt tried this, tried that, and now we have Social Security, we have all these things. You wouldn't think of, the government has grown as the country has grown. Maybe it's too big, but these imbeciles who keep taxes is a dirty word. We have a new football and baseball stadium in every city in America, but the roads are falling apart. I drove down from Westchester yesterday in my apartment. I mean, the winter has left devastation. The bridges, the everything, but they want to build a pipeline to bring that filth in. We got plenty of oil. Let's fix the roads. So Roosevelt was not only a seminal president in that you put away money for the rest of your life. Who would want to reverse Social Security? Well, take a look at Congress. There's some that want to. They want to personally. But for the first time now, in the last 20 years, there's a rollback of this government participation in our lives. And look, if Walmart pays $9 an hour, these people get food stamps, we pay for that. If someone doesn't have health care, they go to the emergency room, we pay for that. So in addition, then World War II capped it off because he had to drag a very reluctant country who had been in World War I, which was brutal. And then what was to come was World War II. So he was an amazing guy who was paralyzed. His legs were paralyzed. He probably taught him patience. I think without any question, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and Roosevelt were the three best presidents. Washington risked. He would have been hung by the British. He wasn't the genius of Jefferson and Hamilton, but he was the right man at the right time. And he's the father of this country. And I know he'd be proud to know that we celebrate his birthday every year with a mattress sale. And used car dealers. I'm Bill Duncan from Bill Duncan Dodge, and I got a George Washington birthday sale that'll knock your socks off, right, George? I got George here at the dealership. Come on here, George. You can come bring the kids now. You can play with this hatchet.
Puerto Rican guy in a wig.
Come on now. Come on down now. Right, George?
That's right, Bill. I'm chopping down the prices on these beauties. It's a veritable cherry tree of savings. And I would lie to you, I'm the father of discounts.
That's what we do, though. We turn.
If I had to choose one in modern times, it'd be Roosevelt. And there's no guts and courage anymore.
Well, that's my fault.
But Eleanor, too, was a big benefit to.
Yes, he was.
But Eleanor had to give up her career as a model to be the first lady.
A question about around race. Okay, good.
I just had a follow-up question.
Sure.
You think it's possible for a guy to get into the White House and do what Roosevelt did? Or is the system...
No. Well, he faced a very... there was a Democratic landslide in 32, and I think in 36, but he had a lot of opposition. He tried to pack the court. The court wouldn't go along with him, so he wanted to add 3 members, make it 12 instead of 9. Well, that, So he tried things, and he tried this and that. Look, there are about 50 members of the House of Representatives particularly who don't have to worry about getting reelected. They come from a very conservative place. And they were, you go in there, you give them hell, Compromise is a bad word. I was watching Joel Osteen the other day, waiting for my car, and the mega church, and he used the word compromise. Don't hang around with the wrong crowd. Don't hang around with people that compromise. Now, he meant they compromise on what they want, their ambitions, but compromise is a beautiful word. It's what democracy is based on. It's clumsy, it's ugly, but you can't just smack your fingers and get things done. It's a process, and one checks the other. These people are willing to to hold up the government for their own ideas.
Amazing.
We're the laughing stock of the world. You have the Republican candidate. You ask him, believe in evolution? Well, I'm not a scientist. One more moron. Well, I don't particularly believe I was descended from an ape. I think it's the ape that has issues with this dumb son of a bitch. We already did this with Spencer Tracy in Inherit the Wind in 1928. We're still playing out these fantasies. The Earth is exactly 7,212 years old. God created it at 9:20 in the morning. And dinosaurs and men lived and hunted together until 1982 when the Flintstones was canceled. Pebbles was the last.
Other countries are pretty dumb too.
What?
Other countries are pretty dumb too.
Like?
Well, China just banned time travel. Did you hear that? They really did.
Answered your
Thank
question.
God. Thank God somebody stood up.
Yeah, China just said that like one should not go back in time and attempt to change our glorious history. You know what I mean? Like they were just like
that scares me.
So like you can't. They won't play Back to the Future in like any of the Terminators. Like they.
Oh, so you can't make believe either?
No, they won't let you write anything about time travel. Like
wow,
they're
so really worried about it.
They're so afraid that somebody's going to go back in time and change the course.
Well, if anybody could work that science out, it's the Chinese.
I was going to say, they'd be the ones to invent it, if anyone would, or the Japanese.
It was banned in April 200011.
Yeah.
To back up your point.
Yep.
They make such good food. I just don't understand it.
Well, we were talking about that earlier. I don't know about that. You got to go to the high-end places to make sure.
We all thought that, look, the average person's, it depends. If you want to continue to buy a T-shirt and Kohl's, I don't get Kohl's. I went there to buy a shirt, and I bought a shirt and a tie and some underwear. I got the 20% discount for the Saturday. I got the 15 extra for the Father's Day special. I got the 7% extra that came in the back of the magazine, added it up. I got 2 shirts, 3 ties. They gave me $4.20. So if you want a T-shirt that costs $9, made by someone who gets 20 cents an hour, okay. How much more would we pay for a hamburger at McDonald's if they got medical coverage? 5 cents? 10 cents? I mean, it's a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
You pay less and someone else gets paid less.
Right.
So make up your mind. Henry Ford, a genius and a vile anti-Semite.
He loved the Jews, didn't he?
He's the only American in Mein Kampf. Did you know that? He's the only American mentioned in Mein Kampf.
Hitler mentioned him?
Yeah.
That's a nice, a very, very nice
He
feature.
said, until my boy Henry Ford.
After the war, his sons and everything went to the Jewish community, and no one would buy a Ford, and made a kind of rapprochement. It's the second rapprochement I've used in this
I noticed that, yeah.
Holy shit.
But it's,
Ford also sponsored Schindler's List when they aired it on TV. It was uninterrupted sponsor presented by Ford.
That's right.
They were like, we're so sorry. Here's your blood money.
But Henry Ford did something revolutionary early on. He raised the salary of his workers way beyond any of the other automobile makers. This is in the early 20s. Why? Because he said, I want them to be able to afford to buy something. The only reason why the economy is slowly, grudgingly moving, because people don't have money to buy things.
Right.
People have 2 and 3 jobs.
Yeah.
And then they want to cut food stamps. Who's the recipient of food stamps? Children, which they insist everyone have. No abortions?
Right.
You have this child even though you're 14, and it'll go out in the world and you'll need food stamps, but I don't want to give you the food stamps. They love fetuses. They're nuts about fetuses. But when the fetus comes out, they're ready to turn.
Like my ex-girlfriend.
Why don't we call them post-fetuses?
The one who gave you the Yorkie?
No, other one.
Another one.
Why don't we call them post-fetuses, and maybe we'll like them better. Who is the victim of poverty? Children.
What was your, off the subject, I've been wanting to ask you, what was your relationship like with Pryor?
A wonderful relationship. We met at the Improv, I would say, around 60, very early. I went there in the fall of 66. I probably met him in the spring or fairly early. He would come in there. We would do improvs together, kid around. Some doo-wop with Danny Aiello, who was the bouncer. I would improvise a doo-wop song. Danny was the bouncer.
Really?
Yeah. The best I ever saw, because there was very little unruliness, the original Improv at 44th and 9th. But when there was, he would come up and his fist would be 6 inches from the guy's stomach, and he'd bend over and they just take him out. Pryor was adorable. That's not the way you usually hear of him, but He was on Merv Griffin all the time. Merv Griffin had a show at the Little Theater next to Sardi's. It was syndicated. Woody Allen would make regular appearances, and Richard was collegiate. He had a sweater, and he was adorable, and he had to be clean, of course. And just like George's early career, hippy-dippy weatherman, this and that, his early stuff was funny, too. You're funny, too. And I'm not saying it wasn't funny afterwards. Of course it was. But he was sweet, and he had been on television a number of times already. I had not been on, except for the Ted Mack Amateur Hour in 1955 with my group, the Teen Tones.
That's real, right?
Yeah. We sang. I was in one of my specials, and it's on in the Library of Congress. We sang "Sunday Kind of Love" up tempo. I want a Sunday kind of love. Anyway, we were defeated by a one-armed pianist from Missouri, and that's for sure. So I would ask Richard questions, and about what Merv Griffin. He said, maybe he was the first one to tell me, watch out if you do Merv Griffin. He steps on your punchlines. He was such a nice guy. He was a trillionaire, and he loved his job. He loved his life, but he stepped right on your punchline. He had no idea. So Pryor was. We got to be very good friends. I once asked him, what college did you go to? And he laughed for about 5 minutes. He was brought up in a brothel in Peoria. And he...
Ass backing $7, by the way.
Yeah.
He had an incident on 44th Street where he smacked his girlfriend, and her lip bled a little, and I said, hey, man, like I'm a conventional middle-class guy. The next day, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. He was with her. Nothing was wrong. So he had this kind of thing, this streak where he got excited and he could be violent. Then I got married and I did a midnight special with Gladys Knight and the Pips in California. A lot of nervous Pips when they were given any lines. She was very generous to have all her cousins. Had no purpose whatsoever. She herself is an amazing talent. Yeah. So I drive out with my new wife in a convertible rented to the sea, to the ocean, out Sunset Boulevard. We're going to make a right and take the scenic route to San Francisco. I'm driving 5 minutes, and a Porsche passes me with some accountant driving. He looked like an accountant, and Richard in the shotgun. So I honked my horn, and he has this funny look, he's cute. He goes, like pointing, pull over. I pull over, told him I just got married, introduced him to my wife. I go, my house is right here, you got it. My wife's eyes roll to the sky because she knows there will be a delay in the honeymoon. And we partook of Cavassier, that was his drink of choice, and cocaine.
Wow, nice. That's my drink of choice.
Yeah. No, I tell you, cocaine was a giant waste of time, really. We read Conan Doyle and Freud and thought that, well, it's only psychologically habit-forming. It made you spend time with the morons. They had some woe on them,
Right. That's the truth.
And it never ended. You wanted more and more.
So many ideas.
One day I said, forget it. But I spent 2 hours at his house. We had a wonderful time. My wife then drove. And, we'd bump into each other. And the last meeting was so sad. I saw an interview with him in the New York Times where he said he'd never let it get too far. He had, what do you call it?
MS?
Multiple sclerosis, right. And kind of hinting that he would take his own life if it became too bad. So there's this comedy award in California, and I'm there, and there he is with this wife. You're having a good time, aren't you, honey?
Oh, that wife.
He can't talk.
The white one?
The white one.
The white one.
He can't talk, and a woman, not his wife, is wiping his mouth. He can't talk. And George and I took a picture with him. I wish I had that picture. I don't. And I whispered in his ear. He once told me prior at the Improv, he says that we get our inspiration similarly. And that was true. I use Second City technique. All my stuff, I never write. I might write an idea down, but George, for example, would write like a playwright. The HBO stage manager knew his first word and his last word. I did 9 HBOs. I never did the same thing, same way twice exactly. So we took a picture with him, and I whispered in his ear, I said, you're the best. I think he may be the best I ever saw in person.
So many people say it.
I saw him at Avery Fisher Hall.
Yeah.
After George died, I began to look at more and more of his stuff and realize how great he was. I didn't like the dark stuff at the end. Suicide and crippled children, and all that shit. But he was a wonderful comedian. And so it's sort of depressing. And I whispered in his ear, I said, how good I know you are. And because I'm good. And he sort of, he couldn't even move, but he kind of indicated, like he's pleased. And I squeezed his hand. And we walk away, and I go to George. I said, jeez, my head is down. He goes, that dude is fucked up. He meant it sincerely, But his daughter, who I think is on Serious Friday, she's a doll. I keep in touch with her. I went to the naming of the street for George, which was a lot of fun. He would have gotten a kick out of that. The Catholic school didn't want to know that.
We know the story.
So Pryor is, and then it's just a very, very sad story because he just was beset by these demons. I never heard of crack until I heard him burning himself up. And then I heard that he admitted that he was really trying to take his own life. But anyway, he did let it get that far. And that is, to me, the greatest nightmare of not being able to move and being helpless. And it's a very sad story.
Not being able to talk, especially when that's what you did for so many years, and just not being able to communicate these thoughts.
Right.
For anyone, it stinks.
For anyone, even like Muhammad Ali. You go like this.
Marceau, it wouldn't be so.
that was by choice. But I feel like, especially for a comic, just being like, I get annoyed at my own thoughts out loud, and I can't imagine being stuck in my head. Yeah. And you're the only one that can hear it. And every time you want to make a joke or point out something, and you can't. And that's for years just being a prisoner.
Is that a muff?
It's my muff.
May I pet?
May I pet your muff?
What's the dog?
I've been dying through the whole interview. Why not?
Her dog in here today.
Blanche.
Blanche.
Like Blanche Devereaux.
Yeah.
I miss that.
Jimmy's got to go, and we definitely got to take a break.
All right.
Yes.
Jimmy's got to go?
Yeah.
Well, you're clean. Okay.
I'm flying to
Tampa,
Florida for a gig.
Oh, old or young?
No, it's probably mid-30s and 40s.
So let's plug it. Where are you going to be?
The Mahaffey Theater tomorrow night. It's myself, Robert Kelly, and Artie Lang. And it's from My Culture Show is sponsoring it. So, this
it's going to be a good time. He's
where in Florida?
St. Petersburg, I think. Right outside.
Oh, I thought you said...
right outside Tampa.
Oh, I'm sorry. He might shoot machine guns this weekend.
Yeah, I've never done it before. I'm not really into it.
I hope he does.
I did it once at the FBI.
How is it?
It's terrifying because it's so easy. I was on a tour of the FBI, and the guy recognized me, and he said, come on, you're trying some. He let the kids hold it, but he let me fire it. And it's just the simplest, easiest
really
thing.
Light, right?
I get to
kill 25
It's amazing.
people.
I got to fire a 50 caliber machine gun off the back of a Humvee in Iraq.
That's awesome.
It's the greatest. It just awakens a dude quality.
I'm telling you, that's what guns people don't get. They're fun to shoot.
Like your
Did you do this as a soldier or a comedian?
No, as a comic. I went and did shows for the troops in Iraq, and then they took me out at night and let me just fire it into the sand, and they have the tracer bullets.
Man. I want those bullets going into the enemy. I don't want any bullets.
Oh, I wasted
the bullets.
hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I went to Germany and performed at the hospital there with no machine guns. It was just
Yeah.
I will say, watching people shoot machine guns. I'm from Texas. I don't enjoy shooting guns. We went to Afghanistan and they shot machine guns out of a Black Hawk helicopter. And the best part is I got him to do it. I was like, would you guys shoot y'all's guns for me just to see it? And they were like, oh, fuck
no problem.
And they shot
Watch
it.
this.
And I was so turned on watching them do it. So that I can only imagine how manly you feel.
Eliza's the best.
14? I mean,
She's
very young. You made several references to things that only happened yesterday when you were a little girl.
Found the book.
And Robert will be appearing tomorrow night in Tarrytown at the Tarrytown Music Hall. And then April 18th at Governor's in Levittown, which is a great club. And just go to robertklein.com for the dates. Just one of the all-time greats.
Still doing it, too.
Yeah, one of my oldest influences. My first influence is Robert Klein.
Jimmy has brought this up a lot.
Thanks, Norton.
You're very
You're
welcome.
a pal.
Thank
I
you.
can back that up. You going to stick around or you got to go?
Whatever you say.
Wow, fuck. All right, Robert Klein will be here after the break
shape.
with
You're
Sherrod
taking care of
Small and
yourself. Yeah.
Jesse Joyce and Iliza Shlesinger.
And I'll see you guys on Monday.
We love you, Jimmy.
Unless I die.
Bye, Jim.
Wow,
And
jeez.
do a little, before I go on, I always say, oh, gods of humor, bless me this night. Bless the punchlines and make sure the setups are clean and crisp. Oh, God of humor, bless me. And then I go,
Oh, my God.
when I did a sitcom, I had everyone, all the actors put their hands in and go, let's act! Before the game. I like the spirit.